that says, all right, that's it, that's all we need to hear. It's everything that is presented, which is why we wanted to make this as complete and thorough as possible. Yes, ma'am.
What justification are you going to be using to release the grand jury evidence? I know there's been some dispute as to whether a court order is going to be needed to present what it is you're saying you're able to present tonight.
You know, I won't bore you with all the legal details and technicalities of it, but essentially it is now a closed investigation, which makes it an open file. It's a lot more complicated and complex than that, but essentially that's how the Sunshine Law operates. When it's a closed investigation, when it's a closed case, it's an open file. And so that's the basis. You know, we're following the Sunshine Law. Although there's no specific request for it, I assume there would be a request, but I thought it was important in the first place to release the information. So, yes, ma'am.
Bob, obviously many are not happy with this decision tonight, especially the family of Michael Brown. If they are watching, what would you want to say to them this evening?
Well, you know, as I said at the very outset, you know, my heart goes out to them. Regardless of the circumstances, they lost a young man. They lost a young life. And I've said many times before that the pain that goes along with that loss is just something that most people can't understand. And so, but at the same time, everything was presented, you know, and it's things don't, but everything was presented, everything was given to the grand jury, it was all put in front of them, and the 12 people made a decision that based upon all that evidence, that as tragic as this is, it was not a crime, it was not one that where charges should have been filed. You know, it doesn't lessen this tragedy by the fact that it was a justifiable use of force or self-defense. There's still a loss of life here, and the family is going to have that loss forever. That will be with them for a long time. You know, no police officer or no young man should ever be killed by a police officer, and no police officer should ever be put in that position. And so that's why I keep urging people to keep this talk going. You know, so many times, and we've seen in the past where the discussion starts and then it fades away, and then we have the same issues, and we're back here again. I don't ever want to be back here. So we have to keep that discussion going, and everybody has to stay engaged in it. This is a horrible tragedy, and we don't want to see any repeat. So, thank you.
After more than 100 days, a decision has been reached in the Michael Brown shooting case. The grand jury could not find probable cause that a crime had been committed by Officer Darren Wilson, so they returned a no true bill. Darren Wilson will not be indicted. Prosecutor Bob Mcculloch began with sympathies for the family of Michael Brown, and because the investigation might not be perceived as full and fair, McCulloch decided the evidence in this case would be released in the name of transparency. All the evidence in this case was shared by federal and local authorities. All 12 jurors were present for every session. They met 25 times since August 20th. They heard 70 hours of testimony, heard 3 medical examiners, hundreds of photos. McCulloch said they are the only people who heard from every witness and heard all the evidence.
And of course, he says his heart goes out to the Brown family, but all facts were presented to the grand jury, and this is what they decided. There was also a statement from the Brown family. They said that they were very disappointed. They went on to say that it is because the killer of their son, they do not feel like they were justice was served. So they are responding. We have not heard anything from Officer Darren Wilson yet or his camp, but we expect to soon.
And we are also going to hear from the President of the United States.